Hello everyone. This session will be about the histology of pharynx and esophagus. Before we move on to talk about histology of pharynx and esophagus, let us do a quick review about what is the GIT lining. The whole alimentary tract is lining by these four layers: mucosa from inside, and then submucosa, muscularis, and serosa or adventitia. This is very nice diagram showing the four different layers of the GIT lining. As you can see, we have the innermost layer is a mucosa, and after that we have some mucosa. Some mucosa contains some mucosal plexus, and we have muscular or musculosa, and outermost layer is serosa or adventitia in a different location with the same name. So here the first arrow is the mucosal lining. After the mucosa we have the lamina propria. After the lamina propria we have muscularis mucosa. These all are the part of mucosa, and then it's a very large layer, a huge layer. This is some mucosa contains some mucosal gland and some mucosal plexus in a different location or in different GIT organs. And outermost layer, that's the third layer, is the muscular layer, contain mesenteric plexus, as you can see here, and have inner circular and outer longitudinal muscle. And the outermost layer and the outer arrow, this is the serosa. And the serosa and adventitia, when an organ is covering by outer epithelial layer in the GIT cavity, this is serosa. When an organ like an esophagus, when it's passing from the mouth through the thorax up to the GIT, is covering the outer layer, is connected tissue layer, and have anchoring the ligament, that is adventitia. Let us talk about mucosa. The mucosa consists, as I said, with a lining epithelium made of simple columnar epithelium. This is the most kind of epithelium in the GIT tract, and it is side on the basement membrane. The lamina propria made of loose connective tissue and full of macrophage and lymphocytes. Muscularis mucosa separate the mucosa from submucosa to contract, which lead to the increased contact of epithelium with the food. To increase the contact of epithelium with the food. As you can see here, this is the mucosa contained with epithelium, lamina propria, and muscularis mucosa. And then you have some mucosa with some mucosal gland, and this some mucosa always contain the blood vessels and nerve plexus. And then muscularis, inner circular, outer longitudinal and mesenteric plexus in between them, and the outermost layer is the serosa. Some mucosa consists of layer of dense connective tissue, and as we said, is rich in blood vessels, contain some mucosal nerve plexus, and sometimes may contain mucous gland according to the organ. The same as you can see here, that's submucosa. Muscularis, generally it consists of two layers of muscle fibers, inner circular and outer longitudinal, and in between them there is mesenteric nerve plexus distributed between the two muscular layers, with the submucosal nerve plexus that can help to propel and mix the food. These two nerve plexus, one of them found in the submucosa and other in the muscularis, they help to propel and mix the food in the GI tract. Serosa is a layer of loose connective tissue covered by a layer of simple squamous epithelium called mesocilium, and contain lymph and blood vessels of the GI tract and fat tissue. As we said, there's difference between serosa and adventitia. Serosa is the outer layer covering the GI organ or whole organ inside the GI cavity, and adventitia is the outermost layer covering the like esophagus or trachea outside the GI cavity. Let us talk about the pharynx. That was very informative review about alimentary tract histology. The pharynx, as we said in the previous lecture of anatomy, it consists of three parts: nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. In nasopharynx, this part is contained respiratory epithelium lined by pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium with the goblet cells, or it's similar to respiratory epithelium. And the lamina propria contain lymphoid tissue including pharyngeal tonsils or adenoid, as we discussed. And some mucosa of nasopharynx contain ceremucous gland. Oropharynx, this part is in close contact with the foot, is contain non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium mucosa is contact with the foot. And the lamina propria contain lymphoid tissue including palatine and lingual tonsils. The laryngopharynx also lined by non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, and the lamina propria contain elastic fiber for flexibility. That's part facing to the epiglottis. And the outer layer of all these consists of striated muscle of the pharynx. As we discussed, we have circular muscle and longitudinal muscle. Esophagus is similar as we discussed in the review of GIT histology. It's contained mucosa, submucosa, muscular layer, and adventitia or serosa. So the mucosa of the esophagus epithelium of the esophagus is non-keratinized vascular epithelium to resist the friction of food, and is continuous to renewed by mitosis at the basal cell layer. The lamina propria contain mucosal esophageal gland. This is very important. This is exam question. Lamina propria of the esophagus contain which type of gland? Contain mucosal esophageal gland, and the site where it is near to junction with the stomach. This is the mucosal esophageal gland, because you have some mucosal esophageal gland also. And function: secrete neutral mucus that protect esophageal mucosa against regurgitation with stomach content. That's logic. Muscularis mucosa, longitudinal smooth muscle fiber in the lower part of the esophagus. It becomes differentiated into the inner circular and outer longitudinal layer. Some mucosa of the esophagus contain some mucosal esophageal gland, as we said, and this is found along the entire esophageal length, different from mucosal esophageal gland. The function is to secrete mucus to lubricate the mucosa. Musculosa in the upper part or upper third of the esophagus is formed by striated muscle fiber. The middle third is formed by mixture of both striated and smooth muscles, and the lower third is formed by smooth muscle fiber arranged in inner circular and outer longitudinal muscle layers. The adventitia or serosa of the esophagus, as we said, is covered by adventitia in the thoracic part, and the abdominal part of the esophagus is covered by serosa. This all about the esophagus and pharynx histology. I hope that's been clear. Thank you very much.